Okay, so this is part 2 of my StarCraft 2 turret defense tutorial. And in part 2 we are going to use the data editor to make some turrets for our map. So let's go up here to our toolbar and click on the data editor button. It's the little button with the picture of the Marine. And that will bring up the data editor. Now in the little drop down box you see data type, we want to select units, or alternatively you have these tabs just underneath the drop down box that are scattered throughout. You have units, actors, upgrades. You can select those and that will also go to the appropriate category. We want to go to units. Now on the right side of the screen you'll see a search bar. You see field, and there's a bunch of empty rows over here. If you want your data editor to look like mine, which isn't necessarily the best thing to do, but if it's easier for you to follow along, make sure that you select the first 4 buttons above the field row on the right hand side of the data editor. These buttons are show table view, show default values, show advanced fields, and show field type names. Make sure you have all 4 of those selected. And that's just if you want your data editor to look exactly like mine. Because a lot of people have theirs set up differently, and when they do tutorials they don't explain why they see a field one way, and you go in and you look and you say, well shoot, that data field's not there for me, I don't know what to do. So I'm letting you know right now. Okay. So on the left hand side, we're going to go on the search bar, we're going to type in turret. And you can press enter, or you can just wait for it to refresh on its own. And we are going to make a tower that looks and acts like the auto turret. So go down and find auto turret and left click on it, and you will see in the bottom left it brings up a tree layout with all the things that this turret has linked to it. And on the right hand side it brings up all of the data values that we can edit for the turret. So what I'm going to do is I like to duplicate my turrets or my towers, because then if I mess something up I can go back to the original. There is a way to reset the data editor, but it's kind of a pain. It doesn't always work exactly correctly, although you should be warned that the duplicate function also has issues sometimes. So data editing can get pretty hairy, and it's probably going to consume a lot of your time. So let's select the auto turret, and we're going to right click on it in the top left window and go down to where it says duplicate unit and click that. And now a duplicate unit dialog box is going to pop up. And what this does is anything that you want to make an actual copy of, you would select the checkbox next to it. Anything that you want the new turret to do just like the old turret, you don't check. And what'll happen is this. So we're making a brand new auto turret, but if we want it to have the same weapon and have all the same abilities as a regular auto turret, then we would not check these, and it would link to the original StarCraft abilities and weapons for the auto turret. If we want to make brand new effects and weapons and abilities, then we can duplicate the original ones and edit them. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to go down to actors, and under actors check the box next to auto turret. So we're going to create a duplicate of the auto turret actor. The reason for this is that actors can only be assigned to one unit. So if you try to duplicate something and you do not duplicate the actor, you're going to have issues. At least that's been my experience so far. So as far as I know, you have to duplicate the actor, because an actor can only be assigned to one unit. And we are going to need to duplicate also the effect auto turret twin auto cannons damage. So select that. We don't need to duplicate burn down damage because, first of all, our turret's not going to burn. We're going to make it invincible. And second of all, even if we did want it to burn, unless we wanted to change the way it burns, we would not need to change the burn down damage effect. And splash damage, a lot of weapons have that, and I'm not sure why, because they don't deal splash damage. So it must just have all zeros in its field. Okay. Now scroll down some more. And turrets, I've seen tutorials where people copy the turret, and I don't understand why, because we're not going to change how the turret works. And if you copy the turret, then you have to tell the game to use the new turret, and it's just extra work. And so far, I haven't seen a single reason to want to do that. So we are not going to make a copy of the turret. We are going to link to the original turret. That will tell the gun to swing around and actually look at whatever target it's aiming at. And scroll down to weapons and select auto turret 12mm gas cannon. And we are going to duplicate that. And click OK. And this will take a little bit. And the data editor will copy the things we've asked it to copy. So now you should have another auto turret that will be highlighted in your top left window. And mine does not say copy because you'll see for the source, the original auto turret came from the StarCraft 2 campaign, and the new auto turret source is my map, Turret D tutorial. Now if we made another duplicate of this auto turret that's in Turret D tutorial, or the original, any new auto turrets that we make that have a source as our map will be named as copies. And you can see down here in the bottom left in the tree, auto turret copy is the actor. It is named copy because I guess its source is the same. I don't really know, but it's not really that relevant. So back in the top left, double click our new auto turret. Brings up the unit properties window, and we're going to rename it Basic Tower. You can use the suggest button to change the ID. You really don't need to. The ID is basically how other units, effects, abilities will link to this unit. So if you change the ID, then you have to make sure that anything that is linking to this unit uses the correct ID. So I usually don't change the ID. I just usually let the game use whatever it wants to use. So let's click OK. And now we have a basic tower. Now we are going to edit the weapon to do more damage than the turret would normally do. So on the right hand side, you can scroll down and you can find weapon. It's in here somewhere. Or at the top, you can just type in weapon in the search bar. I'll do that. Okay, so we have combat weapons weapon is the auto turret 12mm Gauss cannon. And we want to use that. Actually, it should be the Gauss cannon copy. Yeah, so if you double click on that under basic tower on the right hand side, double click that, it'll bring up the value. And you can see that it is the 12mm Gauss cannon copy, which is what we want it to be. So hit OK or cancel and close that window. And we're going to edit the copy of the weapon. The reason we want a copy is because if we edit the original weapon, then the original auto turret would be edited. And what I said before, I like to keep it the way that it came with the game in case I ever need to go back to the default. So in the tree view, we can scroll down to the bottom, and under weapons we see the cannon, and we can right click on that and click view linked weapon, and that will move us to the weapons tab and select the cannon copy for us. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the name. Once again, you could double click on the left hand side to open the properties, but we'll do it a different way this time just to show you that it can be done. So on the right hand side in your data editor, type name in the search bar. Okay, and weapon name field comes up. Double click on it and it will bring up a window so you can change the value, and we're going to change the name to Basic Tower Cannon, and click OK. And now you can see that its name has been changed on the left hand side in the drop down, not the drop down list, but the list of everything named turret. It is now Auto Turret Basic Tower Cannon, and it should update in the bottom left too, but it's not. There we go. Sometimes you have to click to a different unit and then click back to your unit because the data editor doesn't like to refresh. Now you notice that it still says Auto Turret with a hyphen. Why does it say that? Okay, I'll show you. Go back to your search bar on the right hand side, type in prefix. What happens in the data editor is you can give prefixes and suffixes to names. They won't show up in the game, but they will show up in the editor. It's to help you keep things organized. We don't need it to be named Auto Turret necessarily, so double click on Auto Turret in the data editor and just backspace it out and hit OK. So now the name will simply be Basic Tower Cannon. And if you want to get all the data values back on the right hand side, just select the search bar where we type prefix and backspace it out, and all of your data values return. So what we want to do, let's change, just for demonstrational purposes, how fast this weapon fires. So scroll down to where you see stats dash period. That's the firing rate of the weapon. So double click on that, and I believe the lower the number is, the faster it will fire. I believe that's correct. So let's type in 0.1 and we'll test that out later just to be sure. And you can also edit the range of the weapon, so let's do that. Let's double click on the range and we'll change it to 10. We're just going to make a ridiculously powerful cannon. Not that you would ever really do this. What you would probably do is, after you have tested your map a number of times, you would decide what are good values for these to be really balanced out, and then you would change them. Now you're going to notice that the damage that the weapon does is not in here. That's because the damage is an effect that's linked to the weapon. So in our bottom left hand corner where we have our tree view, we're going to right click under effects, right click on Auto Turret Twin Autocannons Damage Copy, and hit View Linked Effect. Now this effect would also show up, or should also show up, on the right hand side in the data for the auto turret, but this is just a really easy way to get to it. So let's change the name of this. I'm going to go back to double clicking here just for fun, and we're going to change the name to Basic Tower Damage. Hit OK. And let's go on the right, remove the prefix so it doesn't say auto turret. And then we're going to scroll up to combat amount. That is the amount of damage that the weapon will do every time it fires. Let's change it to 20 and click OK. So now we should have a new tower named Basic Tower that has a weapon called Basic Tower Cannon that does 20 damage and fires every 0.1 seconds. Oh, and it also has a greater range. So that's pretty good. And one more thing. Let's click on the data types in the top left, and let's find buttons. There you are, buttons. Okay. We're going to make a button to build the auto turret, or the basic tower, sorry. And that's going to go on our builder, which I will not do in this tutorial. I will make him his own separate tutorial, so you can switch to it if you want to see it. So go down, find build auto turret. We're just going to duplicate that. So right click on it, select duplicate button, and click OK. And double click the new button, rename it to build Basic Tower. Click OK.